Hello, this is Shadow of the Moon, and today I'm going to be continuing my Yu-Gi-Oh! Progression series with the Soul of the Duelist. Soul of the Duelist came out in October of 2004. The next set that was going to be in 2004 would be my personal favorite, Rise of Destiny. This actually was the first set to introduce the actual forbidden and limited list of the Yu-Gi-Oh! Trading card game. Before that, all you had was the limited and semi-limited list, but this was the first time that they actually introduced Yatagarasu, Sangan, Witch of the Black Forest were officially banned, and also Chaos Emperor Dragon Envoy of the End, which for good reason. They wanted to obviously make sure that Sangan and Witch could not be used because of the floating effect to be able to search for your Yatagarasu, and Yatagarasu obviously for no drawing purposes, not being able to make sure that your opponent could not draw a single card. Soul of the Duelist was actually a very revolutionary set as it introduced a number of new support cards for archetypes, also as well as new types. To start off with, I don't have them, but I'm gonna just explain them really quickly. It actually came out with kind of like, I call them more of like gimmick cards from some of the original stuff in the LOB set, such as Neo Aquamador, which was a 3,000 defense monster that could be brought out very easily. A Neo Maneater Bug, or Nobleman Eater Bug, which could destroy 2 monsters on the field except for 1, but it required a sacrifice for it, and Enraged Muka Muka, which was used to double its attack, just like the original Muka Muka, except you would get more attack based off it. It was also used for a tribute. Also, there was a Hani revamp of it, which would send two monsters back to the hand, and that was also very fun to be able to see that as well. So it was kind of like a new way to incorporate a new version of old cards, even if they weren't that good. Also, though, this set came with, before I get on with the deck, came with the most iconic Monarch to ever come out, Mobius the Frost Monarch, which would destroy up to 2 spell and trap cards on the field by being tribute summon. This is the card that most people played a lot in tournaments and everything that I even remember, and even I had it in my deck back then because of how good it was. Being able to destroy 2 spell and trap cards on the field, obviously to cripple your opponent, was something that was very like well needed. So that's why this is one of the most memorable cards from this set. Also, this set was introduced to level monsters. So by having certain requirements met, you could level up your monster to even more powerful monsters, and they would gain additional effects. This is Armed Dragon level 7. This was my personal favorite, but you guys probably remember Horus the Black Flame Dragon level 8, which is the most iconic level monster in the game because of being able to be unaffected by all kinds of spell cards. And actually, fun fact, the deck Horus the Black Flame Dragon was actually used all the way up in 2009 and 2010, so being up there for 6 years and still being somewhat valuable and playable really is a testament to its legacy. Armed Dragon was my personal favorite because of being able to use the discard effect to destroy monsters on the field based off the monster that you destroyed, plus it being a win attribute that actually helped quite a bit too, because you could search out Armed Dragon level 3 using Flying Kamakiri. But this was my personal favorite. There was also other ones such as Ultimate Insect, which is a very fun card that would decrease your opponent's monster's attack and defense and stuff, all of them on the field. So it was actually very beneficial, and that was also a 1 monster as well. Search card, speaking of insects, you were introduced to Howling Insect, which could special summon a insect type monster with attack of 1500 or less from your side of the field from your deck to be able to special summon it. This did not have to be attack position, so if you special summoned it, you could put it right in defense position. So if you had your Pinch Hopper, you could bring out Pinch Hopper with it, and then when Pinch Hopper would get destroyed, you could special summon an insect type monster from your hand. Also, such as the Metal Armor Bug, which had a ridiculous amount of 2,800 attack points that came out in the Ancient Sanctuary set. Also, very proud of this. You had finally support for your Red Eyes Black Dragon. Yes, you have Red Eyes Black Chick to be able to bring out your Red Eyes Black Dragon from your hand to special summon it by tributing this. And Inferno Fire Blast would do 2,400 points of damage if you had a Red Eyes Black Dragon on the field. Also, notable cards were the Mass Dragon, which would use to search for your Armed Dragon or any of your other new Dragon type monsters and everything. Also could be searched for Red Eyes Black Chick. So it really gave the Armed Dragon set and a Red Eyes deck much needed boost in this format. Then you had Big Wave, Small Wave, which was a very nice little tech card. basically what this did is if you destroy all face-up water monsters on your side of the field, you could special summon water monsters up to the same number that were destroyed using this effect. That had no limit. So if you had high levels in your hand, you could bring out your high levels easily with this card. And then finally, one of the best trap cards in the set, Mind Crush. Being able to declare a card game, and then your opponents, that opponent's in your hand, just to discard all copies of the card. This card actually was banned for a very, very, very long time, and I don't know if it's still banned nowadays, but this was banned or at least limited to 1 because of how crushing that was. Because if your opponent had 3 copies or even 2 or 3 copies of the same card, they would all go would all get sent to the graveyard. So that was really a way to just kind of get into your opponent's hand, just like a Delinquent Duo, and kind of crush it. Also, with that being said, Delinquent Duo and Graceful Charity were banned for the first time because of how good they were in the format and obviously how crippling they are. So this deck that I have right here, finally after 6 minutes, is going to be a modified version of the deck based off of the ban list, because I went ahead, ban list came out actually shortly after. So first we're going to go and I'm going to show you. The first is triple copies of your Harpie Lady. This was the normal monster of the deck. This is what you would use to get Harpie Lady Sister, obviously. Then your 2 copies of Harpie Lady Sisters, 1950 Beat Stick, and would become a 2450 Beat Stick if you had Rising Air Current. Birdface, with no Sengen and Witch, this was your only way to search out Harpie Lady and add it to your hand other than Flying Kamakiri. This was also a good beater because it was 1600, which could become a 2100. And then 3 copies of Sylpheed. Sylpheed is a great card because if it gets destroyed by battle and sent to the graveyard, your opponent has to discard a card from their hand. Then 3 copies of 3 copies of Flying Kamakiri #1. This was your main floater because if it was destroyed by battle and sent to the graveyard, you could special summon a Harpie Lady monster from your deck. Or not Harpie Lady monster, you could special summon a level of 1500 attack or less monster from your deck. And that gave way to your Harpie Ladies, as also as this new tech card that I'm going to be having in here and to show you. So you could also search for, if you had Harpie Lady, you could do that, or you could search for your Sasuke Samurai. This was a Mystic Swordsman, which Mystic Swordsman level 2 was also in the set, so don't forget about that. That was a very, very powerful card, 900 attack, that could destroy all face-down monsters without flipping their effects. This essentially did the same thing. This was also searched out, being able to be searched out using Flying Kamakiri, so this was my personal preference for it. And I actually had this in my tournament deck when I would go to regionals. And it did a lot of damage to be able to negate stuff like Magician of Faith, Morphine Jar, and so on and so forth. Alright, so then we're going to be moving on to the other tech cards. You've got your Breaker the Magical Warrior for spells and traps. You've got your Tribe Infecting Virus to be able to destroy all face-up monsters on the field with a chosen type. You've got DD Warrior Lady to swing into your opponent's Envoy at the beginning. And then Exile Force, because Exile Force is still a really good card, and in this format was definitely beneficial to drop him. Tribute to destroy a monster on the field. Then you would have a Morphine Jar, which would replenish your hand in hopes to get your Elegant Egotist or your Harpie Lady or whatever. Without Graceful Charity, it did kind of damper and cripple this deck a little bit because you are essentially you are trying to dig into your deck as quick as possible to be able to get into your copies of Harpie Lady to go set up for your plays. So the only way to be able to search for it was with Flying Kamakiri and Birdface. Also with Sengen and Witch being banned, there was really no way for you to get any of your other support cards like Exile Force, DD Warrior Lady, and all that stuff. And then you got 2 copies of Magician of Faith. This was going to allow you to get into your Elegant Egotist again and all your other powerful spells. Alright, so now that's it for the monsters. Let's move on to the spells. So we've got 3 copies of Elegant Egotist. Obviously, this is going to bring out your Harpie Lady and Harpie Lady Sisters. 3 copies of your Rising Air Current. This is going to give your wind monsters an extra boost. And actually, with the new set coming out right after this that I'm going to be doing a video on, Rise of Destiny, this is going to be replaced with Harpie's Hunting Ground. So finally, Rise Air Current will finally be retired after many, many, many profiles. Heavy Storm to destroy all spells and traps on the field. 1 MST. You could run 2 if you wanted to. I chose to only run 1 because I'm actually running Dust Tornado 2 in this deck for flavor. Obviously, Pot of Greed, because Pot of Greed was not banned, but Pot of Greed is the only way to draw and get cards into your deck. Nobleman or Crossout to destroy face-down monsters on the field. Swords of Revealing Light, stop your opponent. creature swap to be able to take control of one of their monsters, and you give them a flying Kamakiri, ram into it, and then special summon a monster from your deck. And then you have Premature Burial. This was going to help you be able to bring back a monster from the graveyard with 800 by paying 800 life points since Monster Reborn is banned. And then finally, for the spells, Book of Moon to be able to flip your opponent's monster in face down offensive position. Alright, so now we're going to move on to the trap. So first, Solemn Judgment, and it is so funny because Solemn Judgment was not banned at this time. I think it should have been because of the effect of being able to negate anything just by paying half your life. Yeah, that does get costly, but I guess they didn't feel like it was necessary since it literally is you're just paying half your life, which can be steep. And then Call of the Haunted to be able to bring your monsters back. Ring of Destruction, probably still one of the best trap cards in the GOAT format, in my opinion. Trench of Tribute. And finally, Dust Tornado. This was the second way to be able to reuse MST. Dust Tornado was like flavor reasons, because if you had the set, they targeted it with an effect to destroy it. You could play it, Dust Tornado, and destroy one of their spells and traps, just like MST. Also, if you're noticing, Mirror Force was banned at this time, so there are no Mirror Force. You have to kind of play with the other traps that you have. So this kind of actually made people actually have to think about new strategies and everything, which gave rise to the actual GOAT format. Because GOAT was already somewhat gaining momentum. This ironically made it even more so because you could use cards like Magical Merchant, which could dump monsters into the graveyard and everything until you drew spell and traps or whatever. And then you had other ways to be able to get your monsters into the graveyard per se. So that was why this was revolutionary. It made people think and be a little bit more creative on their deck. Obviously, this was not permanent because then the next set would be the next ban list, which is what I'm going to continue to do. I'm going to continue every single set up until the Lost Millennium, which is only 3 sets left. I'm going to show you the ban list for each individual one of them just so that you get a feel and an idea for it. Alright, so I hope you enjoyed this video on this lesson in History Down Memory Lane. I know there's a ton of these videos, and I may or may not do a deck profile on a Metal Raiders Harpie deck, yes, and do what's called Critter format, which is from the set of Metal Raiders before Magic Ruler, so it was about a 2-month set, and I should give you I'll be able to give you more information on that, but I may or may not do that. I haven't decided yet if I'm going to, so please, if you want, comment in the section below if you feel like you want to actually see that, if that's something that you're interested in. If not, I mean, like I said, I may or may not do it. It just depends. Alright, so finally, that's it for this video, and I hope you enjoyed. And with that, see you guys next time.